Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Black and White Podcast. It's episode 4. We're very excited to start talking. There were not nearly as many injuries this week, thank God. So we're going to start talking about them and then get into some games and Ravens and all of that. So what was our first injury that we're going to talk about?
Well, hello, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Hi. It's okay. We didn't have too many injuries this week. Thankfully, that was way down from last week. Only have about four notable injuries. You had Tyrod Taylor, who still isn't healthy enough to play next week, unfortunately, to the unfortunate incident with the doctor puncturing his lung.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, so he's unable to play, which is really disappointing for him because he had won the starting job originally in Chargers land, and it sucks for him.
Yeah, because they were all on board for him pretty much. Like, he was the guy, and everyone there liked him a lot, and it was definitely his job that just he unfortunately lost because of this unfortunate incident. So, but Justin Herbert looked pretty good, pretty all right for what he was. So, yeah, we'll see how he develops and what happens when Tyrod gets healthy. I think they said that they're gonna make him the guy again, right?
I believe he still's gonna be the guy. So it's they're not gonna take the job from him just because of an unfortunate doctor accident. So,
but it is good to get Justin Herbert some time and like some actual games. So at least they have that.
Yeah.
But another injury that was devastating to me because he's my kicker in fantasy and I love him. He's one of my favorite kickers. Outside of, Justin Tucker, of course, is Young-Ho Koo. Young-Ho Koo, he has a strained groin, and it looks like he might go to the short-term IR, and that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah, we got love for kickers.
We really do. When you have Justin Tucker, you really learn to appreciate. Actually, let me restart that. When you don't have Justin Tucker, you really appreciate great kickers because we went through that long phase of pretty bad kickers and they cost us a lot of games, and now that we have Justin Tucker, it's just I love kickers because they're very clutch and they get you a lot of points and they're great. And Young-Ho Koo for the Falcons, he got a lot of their points just because they never finish in the end zone. So we'll see. I don't know who the backup is. I'm not sure, how
I'm sure they'll probably have to hire someone.
Yeah. So hopefully he gets back into the game sooner rather than later. But that is a very unfortunate injury because he's a fun kicker to watch with a great name.
And for Denver, the injuries just continue to pile up.
Yeah. How many starters?
They have 6 starters on IR now because Jarrell Casey now is out for the season. He's on IR with a torn bicep. So, and that doesn't even include Philip Lindsay, or Drew Lock, because Drew Lock's coming back soon, and Lindsay. So right now you're looking at about 8 starters that aren't playing at all.
That's crazy.
So Denver doesn't really have a whole lot of hope there with the unfortunate quarterback situation that they have right now. Yeah. But hopefully it'll get better because Drew Lock should be back by week 5, and hopefully for them, their outlook will be maybe at least a little bit brighter where they can work the ball down the field with Lindsey and Gordon and Noah Fant with Drew Lock there.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know that they'll be a playoff team this year.
Oh, definitely not. No, not at all. But at least they probably just want to see some progression, especially because of the injuries. They want to see some progression from Drew, I'm sure, to at least be able to confirm that he is the guy, especially if they get a high draft pick next year, if they're looking at a better quarterback, if they're looking at maybe Justin Fields there, then maybe they take him if they don't believe Drew Lock is their guy.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
See how the season progresses, see what happens, see what he can do.
Yeah. But and then also the only other notable injury was Tariq Cohen unfortunately tore his ACL.
That's a sad one.
Very disappointing. He just signed that new contract last week, and he looked like he was going to wind up getting more snaps than he normally was. He was going to. And
I like Tariq Cohen. I think he's a very good running back and very good at catching. But yeah, that's a sad one for sure.
Yeah, but the Bears, they're going to have to, they had to find a way to overcome the adversity, and what better way to overcome adversity than, to put in the man, Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. I love Nick Foles. I'm so excited that he's... As soon as Nick Foles went in, Allen Robinson's fantasy stock just skyrocketed, I think, because he had 6 to 8 points, I think, at that point, and then he just got thrown to so much when Foles came in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were down and not playing well, and then Nick Foles, came in and really turned the team around, had 3 touchdowns and an interception, but he still really led the team well, led the team down the field, and got some touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky, and it's nice that the Bears realize that now because, they pretty much sat Mitch Trubisky for the foreseeable future. I mean, they said that Nick Foles is their guy right now, so it's good that they realized that early on in the season and didn't hesitate like a lot of teams I feel like do with quarterbacks. They just kind of, whoever was hot, I guess, put them in.
And now with Chicago at 3-0, it'll be interesting to see if they think that down the road Nick Foles is their future, because he's not young.
Yeah.
But if he's not their future, then where are they going to draft somebody, especially at 3-0 now?
Oh, their future as in, past this year. Yeah, he's definitely not going to be like a franchise guy at this point for sure. So I feel like they definitely could go quarterback. It just depends where they are, I guess, in the draft. And I feel like they're not going to go back to Mitch. I feel like he's had his time and he's not as good as everyone once thought.
And he just won't. He's just not good enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, so they're going to have to look for quarterbacks. And you could maybe have Nick Foles for like a short term, like 2-3 years maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But past that, you got to be pretty much looking for a quarterback like this year or next year for sure.
Definitely.
So going right from injuries, we'll just hop right into the games. We're going to cover the games that we talked about last week that we were looking forward to and cover them, and then 2 games that, we're looking forward to next week. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Steelers-Texans. Thought it was going to be a great game. I believe in the last podcast, you chose Steelers and I chose Texans. No, other way around. Sorry. You chose Texans, I chose Steelers.
Yep.
I just want to get a mini brag in there. But it was a close game, but this Texans just kind of just lost it. Deshaun Watson went 19 for 27, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. So not terrible at all, but the rushing, there was no rushing attack. David Johnson had 23 yards. The next rusher was Deshaun Watson with 5. So they had a total of 29 rush yards. So they nothing on the ground. In the air, they did a little bit better. Randall Cobb with 95 yards, a touchdown. Will Fuller with 54 and a touchdown. So, okay, but they just, I just don't think they're that good this year. I think we thought they were going to be so much better, but they're just, I don't know. You had Roethlisberger going 23 for 36, 237 yards and 2 touchdowns. So it wasn't like he did much better. He just didn't turn the ball over. But the big difference here is James Conner went for 109 yards and a touchdown, averaged 6.1 yards a carry. So they had a lot more of a ground attack with that air, attack as well. And their defense is just so good. So it's kind of difficult to gauge where the Texans are right now because they played such good teams. But I feel like if they want to be considered a great team, they had to win at least one of these 3 games. I feel like they had to beat at least the Steelers.
At least, yeah.
And I feel like they're just not up to par with a lot of the other teams in the AFC. Not that they're a bad team, but they're just not great right now. And that could change, but as of right now, that's just where they are. But yeah, it was a good game. It was unfortunate that the Steelers ended up winning. I thought the Texans had it for a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was a very, very entertaining game. I think that it'll be interesting to see where they go down the road. I think that the Texans, I still think that they are still a pretty good team. I think once they get a little bit easier into their schedule, they still have a lot of games left. So if they don't give up hope and O'Brien actually makes some good play calling, then we'll see where they are down the road. Another team that we were talking about last week was New England and Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Raiders. And boy, that was an interesting game, really. New England won the game 36-20. The game was definitely competitive. Sony Michel led the team primarily at the rushing attack with 117 yards, so he really tore it up. No touchdowns, but Rex Burkhead had a lot of points in fantasy. And also, he had 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and he really, and even a receiving touchdown, he really ripped it up in touchdowns.
It must be nice to have a running back who can get touchdowns in fantasy for those who have Burkhead.
But Derek Carr was really not horrible. I don't think that he's playing poorly. I think Josh Jacobs, to me it seems like Josh Jacobs is still a little bit injured, and he's not 100%. So I think that once he gets to 100%, he still had 71 yards. But I think once he gets 100%, I think that he'll play a little better. And Las Vegas seems like if Derek Carr can do well, I think that they'll be even better down the road.
They're a team that's pretty fun to watch right now because they've been pretty bad the past few years, and all the work, I guess, that John Gruden was putting into the team is maybe starting to pay off. I don't know, and we're starting to see if it is, and I think with Josh Jacobs, it's helped Carr a lot because it's been a really good run game that they've had since they've had him and stuff. So I think that's helped, and he's just been better this year. It seems like something might have clicked. I don't know, but so they're a lot of fun to watch. So it'll be cool to see what all they do. They put up 20 points on the Patriots. The Patriots are not an easy team to beat. So
they have a good defense.
Yeah, it's one of those that you're like, all right, like we can understand this loss. We'll see how they play next week and see if they bounce back and play even better. The Patriots they're playing really well. Cam Newton didn't throw very much. They're still just dominating.
Yeah, they're still a good football team. We'll see how far they go, because they have a pretty difficult schedule in general. But
that's another team I'm excited to keep watching, just to see how they continue to develop with like Cam and stuff, and just see how their game plan going into games and stuff with Bill and Cam. It's an exciting duo. So the next game we're going to talk about is the Saints and Packers. This was a very fun game to watch.
Oh, it was.
Except for the fact that I was going against Alvin Kamara in fantasy, so that was not fun. If the Packers knew how to tackle, I might have won that game. So I lost in fantasy because Alvin Kamara got 40-some points, and that's the only thing I needed him not to do. So I'm going to start with him. Alvin Kamara had 58 yards on 6 carries, averaged 9.7 yards a carry. And then, to add on to that, they didn't have Michael Thomas, so who did they just use instead? Traquan Smith? No, they put in Alvin Kamara. 13 receptions, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He averaged 10.7 yards a catch. Like, I don't know, like, if the Packers just forgot he existed. Like, I don't know. Kamara is so good. He's so good. I love Kamara. He's, like, definitely one of, if not the best, like, running back in the league. Besides, like, Christian McCaffrey, but I love him. So he's amazing. But still, that's insane. Like, that's nuts. When we played them, he didn't rush that much on us. Like, you can stop him. Packers just, yikes. But Aaron Rodgers himself had a night with 3 touchdowns. And he went 21 for 32 on 283 yards. But Aaron Jones went for 69 yards on 16 carries and a touchdown. And then you had Alan Lazard and Robin Tonyan Jr. getting a touchdown, and Mercedes Lewis. So that's who Aaron Rodgers is throwing to and still scoring 37 points on. And it's really annoying, but it is what it is. So the Packers are looking like the real deal. Everyone thought Aaron Rodgers was done this year, that he was beginning to get too old and washed up, but it looks like he is proving everyone wrong, and it looks like the Packers won't be replacing him anytime soon.
We'll see how far Aaron Rodgers goes with the Packers because it doesn't seem like he'll wind up finishing his career with Green Bay, but maybe he'll finish his career somewhere else with another team that he can just move on and play for a couple of years because he's only 37, so he's got a little bit of time. If he wants to play more in Tom Brady's range or even Drew Brees' range, he's still got a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. And in the next 3-4 years, I don't see him being on Green Bay's team because Jordan Love only has a certain contract to a certain length, and there's no way they're going to just keep him as a backup.
I could see maybe like one more year for Rodgers.
Maybe one more year.
Yeah, depending on how this year goes.
Especially since Jordan Love was a first round pick, so he has that extra option. So he technically has 5 years on his contract. Mm-hmm. So if you maybe decide to move on from Aaron this year, you have 4 years. I mean, you decide to move on from Aaron Rodgers next year, you might have 4 more years left. So I do agree that I think that he will probably stay another year. I could see him staying another year. It just depends on Jordan Love's progression.
Yeah.
I think if the Green Bay Packers like the progression enough, I think they might just think they can get enough assets for Aaron Rodgers if his contract is still available to be tradable.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his contract is right now, but yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
There's another 2 great quarterbacks who are both aging. And we'll see what happens with them both in a few years because, I mean, they kind of both have their replacements already on the team, potentially with Jordan Love on the Packers and Taysom Hill on the Saints. And they paid him the money. They better be using him to replace Drew Brees when he leaves. So it's fun to watch, but also it's sad realizing that you're watching the end of these amazing players' career and it's getting to the end. Of course, we have many other great players joining the league. It's just... I feel like there was just this classic era. It was just the Drew Brees and the Rodgers of the Packers and stuff.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting. I don't know whether or not Green Bay is the best team in the NFC or another team that I'm going to be talking about right now in Seattle. Seattle and Dallas. That was a great game. Very entertaining game.
It was pretty much, what we hoped for.
Yeah, it was 38-31. Seattle got a final winning drive, and Dak Prescott drove back down the field, attempted to get a touchdown, and unfortunately threw an interception. So Dallas seems like a team that's just right there. They're just right on the cusp of being a real contender in the NFC, and yet they falter every single week.
I know. It seems like they're at least a little bit better with Mike McCarthy as the head coach. Because they seem to be at least in these games until the end or coming back. So that's encouraging, but they got to win these close games. And we'll see if they can win the close games past this week and just how well they do. Because, they're showing a lot of potential, which we all always knew they had.
Yeah.
And they've been actually kind of playing up to it at points in these games. So it'll be fun to watch them. The Seahawks, it's just Russell Wilson.
He's too good.
He's so good.
He played incredibly well. He got sacked 4 times, unfortunately, but his rating was 130.7.
Right now, I don't think there's anyone else that's close. In the early season MVP race, Russell Wilson is...
still miles ahead.
Right now. It's very early, but it's just he's so good. It's just the throws he's making are just incredible.
He's an incredible player, and he's got a really good, talented group around him. And so I think that I think Seattle's still not as good to me as the Packers are yet. I think the Packers are still the best team in the NFC, but I think Seattle's right underneath them, and I think that Dallas just needs to prove that they can win those big games. And Dallas's biggest thing is they cannot falter against other teams in the NFC East. They can't allow themselves to lose those games because those are games that are all winnable for them if they're going to play up to the level of the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those... They'll probably just be going back and forth for first place the entire season, I could see. And was Chris Carson injured in this game?
Chris Carson did get injured later on in the game because he actually fell on the ground and someone grabbed his leg and kind of twisted it.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Weird.
But that's how it happened. Yeah, so I don't know. He's not out for any time though or anything.
They're saying that they're not sure. He may be out for a week or two, but they're not. still say that they're going to test it and he'll be a week to week maybe.
Because that would be an unfortunate loss that could affect, what the next few games. So.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But, we'll see where Dallas is. Dak Prescott almost threw 60 passes, so he had 472 yards, but still almost throwing 60 passes is hard to win, and also threw 2 interceptions.
Yeah. I'm just happy that he's playing well, but if he wants that $50 million contract that he wants so bad, he's going to have to play up better for sure. He's going to have to win these games. He's going to have to, and he hasn't, there's just like that. I feel like there's something in a player, like in elite players, that they just have that, when they need to score, they'll just go down and score. And I just feel like Dak doesn't have that, just elite instinct or whatever that you can kind of just sense.
Most opportunities, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, but he's not consistent. He just, Aaron Rodgers, if he has a minute left, that you're in danger. Same with, Drew Brees, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady. But Dak Prescott, a minute, I mean, I'm worried about his receivers, but he doesn't scare me so much right now. And if he wants that huge contract, he's going to have to start performing a lot better, I feel like. Much
higher to the level of the competition that he needs to play to.
Because he's not a bad quarterback. He's just not really great. Yeah. Yeah. But from those 2 very fun quarterbacks, we're going to hop over to 2 more super fun quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes and Cam Newton. It's going to be a really fun battle to watch. It's going to be interesting to see if Cam Newton can do more than the Ravens were able to do. It's just going to be interesting to see how Bill Belichick plans for the Patriots, because they have a very good defense, the Patriots. So it'll be interesting because just the Chiefs, everyone on their team is so good and has the potential to score every play almost, and is it's just not the supporting crew. It's so hard to defend against because you can't really double cover anyone because someone else is just going to be open, and it's hard to go man because they're all so good. But if you go zone, then they're going to beat you by throwing underneath. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how Andy Reid and Bill Belichick coach this game. 2 very good coaches. I'm looking forward to this one very much. Last week, Patrick Mahomes, 31 for 42, 385 yards, and 4 touchdowns against Baltimore's D. And, that's kind of a bit of a statement. But then Cam went not nearly as spectacular with 17-28, 162 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But Sony Michel went 9 carries for 117 yards, and the Chiefs aren't great at stopping the rush, so it could be a very good battle here. If the Patriots just drop some good plays, I feel like that was one of the Ravens' biggest things last week, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but it's just a lot of play calling was just pretty poor, and I feel like they can maybe capitalize more than we did on their weak rushing defense. So we'll see what they do. I'm hoping that they pull out the win here, knock the Chiefs down a game, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Could be very high scoring, or maybe not. It's going to be, I don't know. I don't really know what to expect with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that the Ravens Chiefs was going to be high scoring. It wasn't. I don't know. But I think it will be a great game, and neither team can win here. I think sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, I think the Chiefs will win it, but I think the Patriots will give them a fight and not make it easy.
Yeah. I think the game will be very close. I can see the Patriots defense doing much better than our defense did. I think that I believe their linebacking core and their cornerbacks are, more vocal, especially their linebacking core is probably more experienced, and so I feel like they'll probably be able to deal with Patrick Mahomes and the switching of the line and everything and how he's calling different plays. And I think that the inexperience in the Ravens linebacking core really showed in that game.
He kind of showed. He kind of looked like lost.
So I don't know though. I feel the game will be closer than our game was, just because the Patriots defense is, I feel, a little bit more senior. But I think the Chiefs will win. I don't see Patrick Mahomes not throwing at least 3 bomb touchdowns. I mean, that's really, 21 points, bomb touchdowns, and will probably get you enough, to get the win. I'm not saying they're going to only score 21, but I think that ultimately they'll be able to get the win.
They have a decent running game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's shifty, but he hasn't been able to score at all this year. So he's he can get the Chiefs down the field, but he can't get in the end zone. So it's frustrating. So it's like they have a rush game, but it's not spectacular right now. And I mean, he is good. He's just not amazing yet or anything, but he is good. And he's a pass catcher as well, so that helps out a lot with him. So it'll just be very close. It's one of those where I'm expecting the Chiefs to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots won. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much how I'm looking at this one. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that I do see the Chiefs winning, but we'll see. We're gonna go into Bills and the Raiders. This will be a very
fun one.
Very good game. I think the Raiders are right at the spot where they want to really prove that they're a better team, but the Bills are also at that same spot where they have some younger players on their roster who have a lot to prove. And Josh Allen especially, he really has a lot to prove. He needs to prove that the Bills are in at least the second tier of the AFC, that they're able to make the playoffs consistently, and that he can get the ball down the field. He has 10 throwing touchdowns and 1 interception this year so far. So he's really started off hot. And if he can continue this, then he can really start the momentum and hopefully get the Bills more wins. Stephon Diggs has still been pretty good. 20 receptions, 288 yards. He's their highest receiver on their team.
Yeah, he's been able to stay more relevant than I thought he would. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's a bad way of saying it, but I thought he might go there and do the thing that a lot of great receivers end up doing, is like going to a different team, just not fitting, or just kind of just having... thankfully, he has a good quarterback in Josh Allen, so that helped a lot. Mm-hmm. It helped an awful lot with keeping him be a great receiver. So I'm really happy that he's doing pretty well there. So it's nice to see, because I mean, he's such a great receiver. So it's nice not to see wasted talent. Like, he's actually performing well and they're winning. So it's cool.
Yeah, the Buffalo Bills are looking up. I will say though, I don't think that they're going to win this game. I think that the Raiders are going to get the win. I think that the Raiders being at home, just like with the Saints, they have the new stadium.
I love that.
And there's no one in it. I think that they have so much to prove, and I think that they'll come in there and really want to send a message that they're that second tier. I think they can push for the second tier of that.
Yeah, I think if they win this, they can definitely make a great argument for that they're actually pretty good, because I mean, they beat the Saints, and this would be the Bills, who are, I mean, pretty good. They're 3-0 right now. Mm-hmm. So that would it's definitely going to be a statement win for the Raiders. For the Bills, I think it's going to be like, all right, yep, they're pretty good, like we thought. Like, it's going to be like, okay, but for the Raiders, it's going to be more like oh wow, they might actually be good this year. Like, if that makes sense. I
do see the Raiders winning. I think that the game I don't think the game will ever be out of hand. I think it'll always be a close game, because these two teams both have pretty good offenses and pretty good defenses. So I think they'll probably battle it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my money on the Bills this week.
Okay.
I don't think that the Raiders, I don't think it's like out of the possibility at all for them to win. I think they definitely could. I just think that the Bills are going to be a little bit too much for them, Josh Allen and stuff. Mm-hmm. So we'll see, but I think it'll be a close game. It could even be down to the very end, but I think Josh Allen will end up getting that touchdown that he needs, or whatever he needs to do to win this game.
Yeah,
he's showing that he's pretty good. So yeah, it'll be cool to see. I hope the Raiders win, but yeah, I think the Bills might. But going from that game into another very fascinating game, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. We got Gardner Minshew against Joe Burrow. Can Joe Burrow get his first win? He's done everything else that he could possibly do with a loss and a tie. So now let's see if he can get this win. This is the week. I mean, he's going up against a 1-2 Jags against Gardner Minshew, who's no slouch. I love Gardner Minshew. But Joe Burrow, he's very vocal about he wants to win. So this is the week to do it. This is this is definitely the easiest team they faced, and I feel like they will do it. I feel like I could definitely see the Bengals doing this. Joe Burrow, I think, is a winner, and he's going to do what he can to win and keep them in the game.
So you think the Bengals will win?
I think the Bengals will win, but Gardner Minshew will not make it easy. I feel like Joe Burrow, I think this is going to be his week where he just wins. I don't know if it'll be a blowout in any sense. I could see it being kind of close, back and forth, kind of low scoring. I don't know. But, Joe Burrow went threw for 312 yards off of 31 passes. He went 31 for 44 and 2 touchdowns against the Eagles. And the Jaguars went against the Dolphins, and Gardner Minshew went 30 for 42 with 275 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. But that's also because James Robinson got 2 touchdowns. So, But they're both pretty similar with their stats right now. They're not super far off as far as last week. So I think it'll be a good game. But I do think that this is Joe Burrow's first win.
Yeah, I think that. I don't know. I don't really see. I think that Jacksonville got embarrassed last week. Against Miami, they came out and Gardner Minshew was very poor. He didn't play well, but they also didn't have DJ Chark. I think if DJ Chark is able to come back, I think it makes Jacksonville's offense so much better. And especially with as good as Robinson is, it shows that if Chark's there, it really elevates that offense. If Chark is available to play, I believe that Jacksonville pulls it off. I think Jacksonville is the better team, especially they have a better offense. I do believe they have a better defense. So I think Jacksonville will win the game. I think that Gardner Minshew kind of bounces back from that Miami game and says, hey, I'm still here. I'm trying to keep Jacksonville relevant.
Yeah, I think that I'm just going to put out there, I think Gardner Minshew is their guy. I think he's really good, and I think he will continue to get better and keep the Jaguars in games. And Robinson, I think, could have a pretty decent game. Miles Sanders went for 95 yards last week on 18 carries. He averaged 5.3 a carry. So James Robinson could have a good week this week because the Bengals defense, they're okay. They're not great against the run. So it could be, and then Carson Wentz had 9 carries for 65 yards and a touchdown. So it could be a good week for Robinson. It could be a good week for Minshew to kind of run a little bit. But I just feel like Joe Burrow is gonna just turn it on this week. We'll see. But it should be a fun game. I think it's 2 young quarterbacks that we're watching and just seeing them play ball and hopefully have a shootout here because that'd be fun. But we'll see.
We'll see which one blossoms maybe faster because Gardner Minshew has been in the league for just a year. Yeah. But he has proved so much, at least coming from WSU as a lower round quarterback. So we'll see whether or not he's the real deal. And we'll also see whether or not Joe Burrow can prove his, some doubters wrong.
Yeah. And the one big thing with the Bengals right now is Tyler Boyd because he had 10 receptions, 125 yards. So if Tyler Boyd comes to play, if Joe Mixon comes to play, and Joe Burrow come to play, I think there'll be a good test for the Jaguars defense, and it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah. Another real fun game that we're looking forward to is the 0-3 Minnesota Vikings and the 0-3 Houston Texans. But the game should be great. I'm sure that I see both these games, this game actually being pretty high scoring because I think Houston's defense isn't really stellar, and the Vikings defense has really not been great because they've missed a lot of their major defensive players in Hunter and other people. So they really have missed their top defensive players.
Yeah, and both teams really have a chip on their shoulder right now. They got something to prove. They got to prove that they're not a bad team because whoever loses this goes 0-4, and that's like incredibly difficult to come back from. So it's a big game for both teams. So you could really see them balling out.
Mm-hmm. And both quarterbacks haven't really been great. Really, Deshaun Watson has 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and Kirk Cousins has 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions.
Wow.
So we're not looking at great statistics for the quarterbacks, but Deshaun Watson has played some very difficult teams to start off the season. And
for sure.
So is Kirk Cousins. So I think that both of them have an opportunity to prove here, like in one of both of their divisions, that, hey, I'm still here. We're 1-3. Maybe we can at least take some positives out of this game.
Yeah, I feel like 1-3, you got a chance. 1-4, it's such a hard spot.
It's very difficult to come back from. You still have a lot of games, but it's just so difficult to make the right decisions, and then Houston has to decide what they're going to do with Bill O'Brien. If they continue to lose these games, are they going to, especially with Deshaun Watson signing the new contract, are they going to continue with Bill O'Brien as the guy, or will they move on?
I think it's time for them to move on, but that's my hot take.
No, I believe so too, but I think that we'll see if Houston can win this game. I think they still have a chance with some easier divisional games and some easier games coming up, that they could at least make at least a 10-6.
Yeah,
I could see that. So I think if they can at least really push here, even if they lose this game, but I don't think they will. I could see. I think Houston is going to win. I think that Deshaun Watson is ready to step up in this game. I think that the Vikings are in a tier 2 in the NFL in general, and I think the Texans are better than them, and I think the Texans will win the game.
Yeah, we'll see. Last week for the Texans was a win, like must win. This week is a must win. This is,
and I feel picked them last week.
Yeah, and then they just kind of did
fizzled out.
Yeah, fizzled out towards the end. So this is the week to win. Like I feel like it's not necessarily for the season, but almost, because if you lose this, the best you can do is 12-4, and 12-4 you would have to not lose a game. So you're gonna drop probably a few more. So it's just like at best case you go 12-4. And that's kind of what you need to do to get into the playoffs. And it's
exactly.
I mean, you might be able to drop a few more games. It just really depends how the year goes. But it's just that's just such a hard spot to be in. So it's a really must win for both teams. And I mean, I like Deshaun Watson better than Kirk Cousins. So I want to see them win. But for the sake of the Ravens, I want to see the Vikings win. It's one of those things. But I think I'm going to go with the Texans as well. I think I'm going to agree with you, because I think they're better than the Vikings. Deshaun Watson's better than Kirk Cousins, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't have D-Hop, but they have Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, David Johnson, whereas, I mean, the Vikings, they got Adam Thielen.
And Justin Jefferson, who was dynamic last week, but I do agree. I don't think that it's enough to...
Yeah, I think the Texans will edge it out. I think it'll be a well-fought game for both teams, and like you said, it could be high scoring. And I feel like, I mean, both teams have to be playing really their hearts out this week. At least they should be. So we'll see how well coached they are and everything. But if they play like they should, it should be a really good game.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now that we have that, we're gonna move on to the Ravens segment. Not exactly the best segment this week, just because
it's not a fun week this week. It's not a fun segment this week.
Just because we got our butts handed to us by the Kansas City Chiefs. But
I'm just gonna talk trash about the Ravens for the next 20 minutes.
We still have a little bit of positives to take away from the game. I think that
special teams
really showed. Devin Duvernay, I mean, regardless, Devin Duvernay really showed that he's fast. He's our guy. Showed even in other offensive schemes at the beginning of the game when we were playing that one good drive, and then Greg Roman decided to not call any other good plays. But then Devin Duvernay during those plays they were good, and it seems like he's going to be a gadget guy that could be used in not just kick returning, but also other plays.
Yeah, no, we've been looking for a guy for the past few years, I feel like. At least 2 years. we've been looking for a good punt returner. I feel like since we lost Jacoby Jones, as dumb as that sounds, I feel like we haven't really had like a consistent kick returner.
Yeah.
But Duvernay looks really good, and it looks like he could maybe fill that position and be like our permanent like kick returner / wide receiver, whatever we need him to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he looked fast. You know, he hit the routes, and he got that touchdown. It was awesome. He got the only touchdown of the day, and I just feel like it's been a while since we've seen a special teams touchdown like that.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing, and I'm excited about it, and I hope that he continues to just be great.
Yeah, because we might need a little bit more help, but I think that the Ravens will. It was unfortunate that we played very poorly against the Chiefs, to say the very least.
We played awful.
Went out and looked like a very big shell of ourselves out there, and I think that the Ravens are a much better team than what they showed on the field in that game. I think that maybe the play calling was a little bit poor, and I feel like it was a little bit under preparation for them. And I also do feel, as I was saying, we were both saying earlier, that it seemed like the youth of our linebacking core definitely was showing very evident last night, because it was just seemed like Patrick O'Queen continuously got caught out of position. However, he did make some really good plays, but he just really never seemed like he really found a foothold in playing against the offense. So
yeah, it's on both sides of the ball. It was a very poor showing. The defense really let Patrick Mahomes do whatever they wanted, especially on third downs. And, you know, they tightened up a little bit in the third quarter, like second half. They tightened up. They got a few stops when we needed them to. But the offense did nothing with it. And when the offense did something, the defense did. It was whenever we needed one side to perform, they didn't. And it was just so rough. I have the stats right here because I was ready to go in on the Ravens tonight. I've been waiting for this. But Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he went 31 for 42 for 385 yards and 4 touchdowns. And a rushing touchdown. And he rushed for 26 yards. So, I mean, our rush defense wasn't terrible in the fact that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he ran 20 times, 64 yards, averaged 3.2 a carry. That's not awful.
Great. Yeah,
it's certainly not great, but it's not the worst. What really, really got us last night was the passing game. Our pass defense, our secondary was nowhere to be seen.
Decimated.
No safeties. Travis Kelce had 87 yards. Hardman had 81 yards. Tyreek Hill had 77. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 70 yards. Sammy Watkins had 62 yards. And
5 receivers.
Yeah, and touchdowns went to Eric Fisher, Anthony Sherman, Tyreek Hill, Nicole Hardman. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, Mecole Hardman. But like,
it was.
I don't know if you.
It was bad.
Well, I know you remember, but I don't. To all of our listeners, the Dean Pease era. This era for the Ravens, we would sit back, let the person catch it, let them run to us, and then we would try to tackle them. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't. We finally, after like 2 or 3 years, got rid of him, and then we got Wink, a breath of fresh air. And I thought year 2 was going to be the same, just continuation. But right now, really since week 1, our defense has looked very much like the Dean Pease era. Kind of that sit back and wait. And it's really odd because we have such great players on our defense. Like Marcus Peters, Marlon Humphrey, Jimmy Smith. Like, I don't understand. Last night I can kind of almost give them a pass because you have so many receivers, tight ends, running backs who can catch the ball. So they got a few stops when they needed to. They looked silly the whole night though. It looked like a college team playing a high school team almost. Like, it just looked like the Chiefs are in another tier. But like, I just don't know what's going on with our defense right now. And I think that the Ravens, John Harbaugh, Martindale, I think they're all good enough that they will. I've been saying this for the past few weeks. I think they're good enough that they will fix it eventually. It's just waiting for them to fix it is the thing. It's just, thankfully we won the other 2 games, and these are the Chiefs.
Yeah,
and
they're a
they're
good team.
literally a god team. Everyone on their team is amazing. And, I mean, in the second half, we had even being beat down as much as we were, we had a few spots where we could have come back.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't, obviously. But, I don't know. It's hard to talk about these two teams as a rivalry right now because Kansas City has beat us every time. And we have to beat the Chiefs. And I'm hoping that our first time is in the playoffs because that would be a very sweet first victory for us. For Lamar, he would prove that he won a playoff game and beat the Chiefs. But it's one of those, and me and you might disagree on this, but this is one of those Lamar has got to. We have got to beat the Chiefs to be talked about as like a respected, great team, like one of the best. Like we've got to at least put up a better showing than this every time we face the Chiefs. And another thing is the drops. It wasn't entirely on Lamar. Like, Lamar had his throws that were inaccurate, but we had Mark Andrews with so many drops, and Brown with drops, and Ingram with drops, and they dropped so many balls. Like I said, a few of Lamar's throws were way off and horrible, but a lot of them were right on point. Mm-hmm. They just got dropped.
Yeah, they were
and
poor.
That's such a big factor into these games, and it's something that the Ravens have always struggled with because we just can't draft receivers that catch the ball. And I think that this group is a very good group. It's just they had a horrible night. And Mark Andrews, what is it with him in big games and him just disappearing? Mm-hmm. This man is awful in big games. He is some booty. I don't know what it is about him. It's like he's amazing against mediocre to like good teams. But as soon as we face like a great team that we gotta win, my man goes into hiding. Like he just like doesn't want to catch the ball. Not like he got sat for he probably got sat for Nick Boyle on that one touchdown.
They said that it was supposedly a Mark Andrews route. So
yeah, so it's like Nick Boyle, our blocking tight end, had to come in and do his job. Like that's how. And the same thing happened the last two times we played the Chiefs. Same thing happened against the Chargers, or I'm sorry, the Titans in the playoffs. Like. It's just every time he's there when he's like a luxury item, when he's like, oh yeah, we have Mark Andrews and he's great because he can catch all these touchdowns against these okay teams. But as soon as we're like, all right, this week we need Mark Andrews to be like this elite tight end so that we can win, he just nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's just so weird. And I don't know if maybe I don't know. It's so weird. Like he's got to be able to beat these good teams, even if it's more coverage. Like to be mentioned with Kelsey and Kittle, like he's got to perform in these big games.
Mm-hmm. I think that I don't know. I think that we kind of have gotten a little bit too far ahead of ourselves, but like just the fact that Lamar Jackson is in his second full year of playing quarterback in the NFL, we have to think about.
Yeah, but he was MVP last year.
The fact
so
that
it's like
I'm not saying that this is Lamar's fault because I don't think that I would never put this loss directly on Lamar just because
he's a factor, but it's
I
not
think
entirely.
He was certainly a factor, but I think that
so were many other.
Really, there was a lot of other factors into the game. It was just unfortunate how things played out. I think that I liked in certain aspects the Ravens' heart and showing at least their defense was capable at times of stopping the Chiefs' offense. But I think that, as you said, the Ravens' defense will get better and they will improve. And I could see us maybe making a trade down the road that could maybe change a little bit of the team. But we just can't, offensively speaking, your second string running back can't lead your team in receiving yards.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention
J.K. Dobbins has 38 receiving yards, and that's just not. That's not. I think that. Though Greg Roman kind of has problems at times drawing up offensive scheme plays for Lamar, it seems, in these big games when he needs to have Lamar make accurate passes. But then when he does draw up good schemes, and we don't give, honestly, I would say we don't give Greg Roman enough credit for the times where he does draw up really good schemes and the receivers do drop the balls. Because if we're looking at Mark Andrews making these, he had 8 targets and 2 catches. If he catches these balls and they're moving down the field, then Greg Roman's offensive schemes are working. And I'm not saying that gives him an out, because he still was very poor and I don't think he was consistent. But I think that when you look at those, I think that you've got to at least give him a little bit of leeway for the drops that would advance the ball.
I don't dislike Greg Roman. I think he's a very good offensive coordinator. He showed that last year, and I think he's perfectly capable of doing it again. However, I do agree that in big games, for some reason, his play calling, it just goes into Cam Cameron territory. Like, it just goes into, like, what are you doing and why are you... Like, we have a system that's working. Why are you just doing this complete opposite thing? Or they're horrible against a rush. Why are we throwing 50 passes? It's like something like that, where it's just like... Sometimes he just has boneheaded moves. However, he is a very good offensive coordinator, and I don't... It's one of these where, just like last year when we played the Titans, we were outcoached for sure. It looked like they were way more prepared. So I don't know if leading up to these big games, our coaches need to like focus in more, if they got to come up. One of the things that I would like to see from Greg Roman was, with the Chiefs, you have so many of these like creative plays that just creates confusion, and it's just meant to be like, what the heck is happening? Like, there were so many odd formations. And with Lamar, we should have those. I feel like we should have a lot more of those, because Lamar can pretty much do anything.
And that's the thing. I feel like we do have more of those plays, but
we don't use them when we need them.
In Greg Roman's offense it's when like we need them.
Yeah, it's like we have them and we use them in like the Browns game when we're up by 40, and they're like, oh, this would be a fun one to just throw in there, and they like do it and get a touchdown off it or something like that. And every time they do that, I'm just like, that was a good play. Why didn't we save that for later? Or why aren't we using that later?
In a big game when we actually, it could be used as a misdirection against a good team.
And like the biggest thing I think we did against the Chiefs to quote unquote trick them was an option play where Lamar would run, toss the ball to Mark Ingram when he's like about to get hit, like if he, like an option. And then Ingram would probably drop it, but it was just, that was literally probably our trickiest play. And it can't happen. I mean, we have Brown, who's super fast. I mean, he could do like a Tyreek Hill type of, you could do direct snaps and stuff.
Like we were saying.
Yeah, and Duvernay, just anything just to throw the defense off. And everything just looked so like, we just looked slow and predictable, and just like, we just weren't in it. And it was just so out of character for the Ravens, especially at this point. But, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy that J.K. Dobbins was the leading receiver. Like, that pretty much sums up the night. Like, it was.
But with that being said, though, I think that we have to just bounce back against Washington.
Oh yeah,
the Washington
as much hate as I'll give the Ravens for this week, and I mean, last night watching the game, I wasn't even like super pissed off. I just. Everyone was bad, so I just kind of accepted it. But this upcoming week, I could see us just wiping the floor with Washington. Like, I could see us playing like super well. It just seems like something that Lamar and the Ravens would do. Lose a really big game that we should have won, and then just destroy the next team. And then this is the thing. I don't feel like this. Like, I still think the Ravens are going to the playoffs. I think they're gonna be a playoff team. This game matters for standings, but I think that they'll be fine. Like, I think that this week they'll definitely bounce back against Washington, and I think we'll make a statement, except for it's not against a great team, so it's not a huge statement, but it's a statement.
Yeah, no, I think that the Ravens will win against the Washington football team. The Washington football team is actually, I feel they have a lot of positives. I think with Chase Young getting injured, unfortunately, we'll see whether or not he can play. He's questionable with a groin injury, I believe. But we'll see whether or not he can get on the field. But if he can, I think that he can really get after Lamar Jackson. But I think that the Ravens will win this game. I would be very surprised if the Ravens let this game slip away. I could see it getting out of hand early, potentially. But I have a lot of respect for at least Ron Rivera and the rest. I'm sorry. At least Ron Rivera, but we'll see.
We always chose Ron Rivera in our ultimate team in Madden. He was our coach.
Yep.
Like, for years. But you bringing that up made me just think of another complaint for the Ravens from last week, is the offensive line. They've got to protect Jackson more, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just annoying. But, yeah, no, I'd be pretty surprised if we didn't win this game. It seems like a game that, especially classic Ravens, they lose a big game, then bounce back the next week and have everyone back on them like, oh, yeah. And then old Ravens would probably lose the next game or have a... But I think that we'll win the next few, and we'll be fine in the long run. It's just the one thing, and I wrote this in our article on blackandwhitepod.wordpress.com, our new website. I wrote this that it's going to be interesting to see how the Ravens play against good teams coming up, because the Chiefs used the Titans' game plan from the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's really a copycat league. So, I mean, the Chiefs did it. The next good team is going to do it probably somewhat successfully. And the thing is, the Ravens had to find a way to beat this defense. I think it's the safeties are like up closer, corners are back farther or something. I don't know, but they've got to be able to come up with a way to beat this. And until we do, we're not going to be able to win these big games, I feel like.
Yeah.
And I feel like we'll find a way to beat it, but it's just... we haven't yet, and it's been quite some time. From the Titans to now, we've showed that we haven't been able to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But as we see it more, we might be able to figure it out a little bit better, because we had one game to look at, then now we have two. We might have a third, fourth. So it'll be interesting. I don't think the Ravens should be too worried right now, but we do need some safety help. We showed Earl Thomas was definitely a loss for us, more than we thought originally. And it's just going to be interesting. But we should bounce back, and we should be okay. But we will not get to the Super Bowl if we cannot beat the Chiefs.
Definitely.
And we got to do that. To be an elite team, to be one of those teams that has a legacy, to make this the Brady versus Manning rivalry that we all want so badly. Lamar's got to win. And what a better way to start that off than winning in the playoffs. So,
yeah.
We'll see what happens. We've got to... I feel like our team is just too good to lose again. And I thought that last time, but I'm going to say it again. Because I feel like we can't lose the next time we face them. And despite our play yesterday, I still have faith that we'll beat them next time we play them.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think that the Ravens as a team need to really look at themselves and say, this is what our goals are. And I think that they know their goals, and I think they know their expectations. Mm-hmm. But I think that they need to really look at themselves and say, how are we game planning for these teams? Because it seems that they're under planning. Mm-hmm. But I think that the Ravens will ultimately get to the playoffs, and I think they will be successful. I don't think that these first two seasons are at all indicative of how Lamar Jackson's going to play down the road. I don't think that these underperformances will define his career. I think that they will kind of be a tough time. I don't think that every single quarterback has had playoff success right away. You know, Peyton Manning wasn't incredible coming into the league, so I'm not saying that. I think that Patrick Mahomes is such a high bar here we're setting. I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson shouldn't try to hit Super Bowl, shouldn't be his pursuit, but I think that Patrick Mahomes is such a high bar with the MVP and then Super Bowl MVP in his next year. I think that bar is just so highly set that Lamar does. I think that in order for Lamar to be as great as Patrick, he needs to equal that. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that necessarily is something that he has to do in order for his career to be cemented. I don't think that will define his career down the road unless he continues to pattern it. I think that with his second full year, I think he's still 23 years old. He has so long to go in his career. So long. We were just talking about Aaron Rodgers, 37, playing in the league. That's 14 years from Lamar Jackson's age right now. So I think we just have to give him some leeway, and he'll grow as a better quarterback as these years go, and he will get better. But I still expect for him to continue to grow this year. Yeah,
I feel like this year it's just kind of like, it just feels like a must-win for like playoffs. Like he's got to win a playoff game this year. He cannot.
Definitely, no matter who it is.
Year.
Even if it's not against the Chiefs, I agree.
It's the Browns that we're playing. Like, he's got to win if we play the Browns, beat them, lose to the Chiefs, I would still have some encouragement that, hey, at least Lamar won a playoff game. At least that's not a worry that I have this year. We just focus on the Chiefs, like on beating them, like whenever we play them.
And maybe we're just not up to the talent level of the Chiefs. It's not. I'm not taking anything away. I'm not taking anything away from the Kansas City Chiefs. They're a great team, and they're literally their whole receiving core is ridiculous. How deep they are in every position right now offensively. But I think that if we had that, I think it would obviously be a little bit more even. But our talent just isn't at that level. They just have a lot of talent.
Yeah, and it's too early to tell, whether these will define like Lamar's career or not. Because there's gonna be a lot more matchups between these two. But if he continues to lose, it most certainly will be. It'll be a black spot on his like. So it's just one of those things that like he's got to like I said. I think last week I said it. He's got to beat Patrick Mahomes. He's got to win a playoff game. Those are the two things that are keeping him out of like the really great like talks, like being like elite. Like I don't feel like he can be elite till he does that. And I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. Lamar is a great quarterback, and I love Lamar, and I don't want anyone else as my quarterback. But he's just got to do this, and he's got to. Like he's shown that he can win in big games. Last year he did it plenty of times, but this year, can he win in big games with this new style of defense that they're using to guard him? And I think eventually he will. It's just we just have to plan for it better. And I don't think we're gonna see that kind of defense from like Washington. Like I think it's gonna be like better teams. They got to have a good enough defense to be able to pull it off. So I think we'll definitely see it more, and it's just going to be interesting to see what they do to combat it.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess you do think that the Ravens will beat the Redskins. The Washington football team. You do believe that the Ravens will beat the Washington football team.
36-10.
Okay. All right. Oh, well, we'll see. Now we'll move on to the fantasy section.
That's a fun one.
I'll ask you, Josh, and then you can ask me. What's your favorite waiver wire pickup this week? Because we have a lot of injuries, but I think that we saw some fantasy players maybe step up. Maybe we saw some players that, are they pretenders, are they real, or are they not real?
This is going to make me sound really bad. It's 9/11. It's 9/11 right now. It's 9/11. The time, the waiver wire we have like 6 hours. I haven't even began to look at it yet. I was focused on. I made the website today, and I was focusing on that, and I did not really even look. Yes, I don't know yet.
Personally, for me, I would say Brian Hill. I think Brian Hill with the Falcons. They said, from what I've read recently, they said that Brian Hill was supposed to looked like he was performing very well, but he hasn't been getting too many snaps in the first 2 weeks. But then he had some snaps last week, and he performed well. So he could be maybe someone to add as far as a backup to Todd Gurley, because maybe he might take some more snaps from Todd Gurley in that Atlanta offense and get more points. I'm not sure if I don't know if every league would be considered that necessarily a waiver wire pickup, because I think he's in a lot of leagues, but Myles Gaskin might be somebody that would be worth picking up if he's in a low percentage of leagues in the league that you're in. But
yeah, those are good. One person every single year, I say it, and every year I usually end up getting him, but as soon as I get him, he stops performing. But this year, I don't know, man. Sammy Watkins, like with the Chiefs. This year he's been putting up decent numbers, enough to keep him for a flex spot. His first week he had 21.5 points. Then he had 2.1, as Sammy Watkins does, and 13.2. So it's one of those, like, right now he's not an awful one to at least get and see if he continues this type of play, because at least it can maybe keep him flex worthy in like a PPR league. So we'll see. But
it's just hard to tell because of the Chiefs offense.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
But he's been one of my favorite wide receivers for a while. He just has never really been consistent.
Just all depends who's eating in that offense.
Yeah. And another person, Justin Jefferson. He looked pretty good last week. Kind of get him, put him on your bench. See if, he ends up being, consistent. He's only owned in 38% of leagues on ESPN, so he's pretty available. Mm-hmm. And, he could be a flex, and who knows, maybe he could even be a wide receiver, too, by the end of the year. He's one of those that, you never know. I mean, it's Adam Thielen and him, so he could put up numbers.
Yeah. No, I think that we'll see how the waiver wire picks up, because it's really, I feel like there's not too many people on the waiver wire right now that really over-excelled. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few people. I mean, there's some people who it's just really hard to tell, because especially in our league, I mean, we're in a 10-man league, so it's not crazy, but it's just the people that are on the waivers are hit or miss. I mean, you have Adam Humphries, who had 10 points, 15, 8 against Minnesota, so it's just a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And it's just picking up who you think could be good. But yeah, Sammy Watkins is always one of those that I have a soft spot for no matter what. For some reason, I always go back to him, and I never start him, but he's always on my bench. But I'm hoping maybe this year, there's enough, they're good enough that he stays relevant. But yeah, I need to look more at who I want this week in the waivers very soon. Mm-hmm. I just got preoccupied, so I'm sorry for that. But yeah, do you have any others that you want to talk about? Mm-mm. Yeah, I do want to talk about some disappointments from last week. Hold up. Let me pull it up on my phone. All right. Darren Waller. 2 receptions, 9 yards. After having almost 30 points last week, he had 2.9 this week. You gotta love it. DJ Moore, just been very disappointing this year. 9.4, 20, 8.5. Very inconsistent. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You can maybe score a touchdown. I don't know. That would be a nice idea. I don't know. You did it once, and he's had so many opportunities. He just can't get it in there. I don't know what it is. It's so annoying. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Hold up. Let me see if there's anyone else. Miles Sanders. 14.7. It's alright. New Orleans defense -3 points. This was it was within 6 points this week, and I lost by 6. And New Orleans defense got -3. If they would have just done literally anything, I might have been able to win this week. Same with Darren Waller. But Allen Robinson and DeAndre Hopkins and Dak Prescott, they're great. Every week they're great. I love them. But do you have any you want to talk about? Mm-mm. All right. Well, I think that concludes our episode. Thank you all for listening so much. Yes. Be sure to check out our new website, Black and White Pod, pod.wordpress.com. There's an article and introduction of us on there. It's a new website. Be sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.